Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Neeru Tandon from Department of English, VSSD College, Kanpur. We are discussing paper 13th Linguistics. In this, module number 15, Morpho-phonemics has been written by Mr. Pankaj Dwivedi, CIIL, Mysore. In this module, we are going to discuss about morphology and phonetics. Linguistics acknowledge that an inevitable interrelationship exists between different levels of components of language like phonology, morphology, syntax and semantics. Different linguistic levels may be achieved when you go through all these parts. Different linguistic labels may use to describe such a link. Accordingly, a bridge exists between the phonology and morphology of languages. It is usually referred as morpho-phonemics. Now, to explain it more, what do we really mean by morphophonemics? You may define it as analysis and classification of the phonological factors which affect the pronunciation of morphemes, or correspondingly the morphological factors which affect the appearance of phonemes. It is also referred as morphophonology by some linguists. Morphophonemic change usually occurs at morpheme boundaries, and it involves sounds that are associated with separate phonemes. Now, what is phoneme for that reason? To delve into morphophonemics and understanding about its key concept, that is essential vocabulary, is a necessary requirement. Now, phoneme is considered as a smallest unit of human speech, and specifically human speech sound that distinguishes meaning. Phonemes are usually written within slanted brackets. In English, we have 26 letters and they represent 44 phonemes. That are the 44 sounds are there. For example, phoneme k occurs in words such as cut, kite, school and skin. Often we discuss phone and allophone. Now, what are the various differences between the two? We all know that a phone is a surface manifestation from or form of a phoneme given a phonological environment. Phones are usually written within square brackets. In English, phoneme p is manifested as p in words like spat, spoon, but as f in words like pen, pick, Paul. Allophone, when it comes, allophone is a phonetic variant of a phoneme in a particular language. For example, in English, when it is within brackets simple p, it's p, and when there comes a subscript h, then it is f, are allophones. Then what is morpheme? Morpheme is a minimal, indivisible unit of meaning. Current approaches conceive them as rules involving the linguistic context rather than as isolated pieces of linguistic matter. For example, if I say unladylike, there are three morphemes: un, lady, like. They are three different words, but when we put them together, unladylike, they become one morpheme. Encouragement, N, courage, and meant, three morphemes. Man, that is just one morpheme that cannot be subdivided into any other unit. Reader, read, two morphemes are there. So this way you can divide, you can understand that how many morphemes are there in one word. Now when we say morph and allomorph, Previously we discussed phoneme and allophone. Now we are discussing morph and allomorph. What's that? Morph is a surface manifestation or form of morpheme given a phonological environment. In English, plural morpheme is manifested as s, z and z in different contexts, like s in plural form of words like cut, kick and top, or z in plural forms of words like dogs, ribs and kids, in plural form of word like judges, churches, wishes. We have this sound and z together. Allomorph. An allomorph is one of two or more complementary morphs which manifest a morph in its different phonological or morphological environments. Morphs s, z and is of plural morpheme are considered as allomorph to each other. Now there are certain underlying representations. An underlying representation is the most basic form of a morpheme or word before any phonological, morphological or morphophonological rule has been applied to it. Other than underlying representation, we also have surface representation. A surface representation, that is the actual occurrence, is the form of a word that is spoken and that is heard. For example, morph z is manifested as z, s and is in due to different phonological environment. Now you can see on your screen, that is the example of surface representation. These are the symbolic just symbols representing that. Now morphophonemic rules, unlike phonological rules, morphophonemic rules are sensitive to their environment. Whenever morphological information is required to specify the environment for an allophonic rule, the rule is morphophonemic. Like phonological rules, they are written in following form. You can see on the screen A being directed to B or C, and then there comes D. It is read as A changes into B in the environment when C precedes the sound A and D follows the sound A. Then there are various steps in morphophonemic analysis. What are they? Phonemization. First step is to reduce the data into phonemes. This step is also referred as pre-processing of data in the process. Morphophonemic analysis, for example, when you say cell, we write C-E-double-L, but to represent this is the sound comes like S-E-L, cell, and we are saying C-E-L-L, cell. Then it is C-A-T, as simple as that. It's cat, but how we write it, you can see on your screen, cat, cat. Then morpheme division. The second step is to divide the words forms into their component morphemes. However, phonological alterations tend to obscure this division. For example, cells, cells, then cats, cats. So this division is there. Now, keeping visible and possible phonological alteration in mind, it's necessary to find the allomorph of each alternating morpheme. After allomorphs have been identified, find the segment or segments which tend to alternate. That is finding the allomorphs. Then we have active morphophonemic rules. After division of words into morphemes and identification of allomorphs, it is possible to state rules and their order of application. Taking into account the logical possibilities, underlying representations are to be set up so that all the possible allomorphs of each morpheme can be derived from a single underlying representation using general morphophonemic rules. However, choosing underlying representations often involves considering more than one hypothesis. The following steps are usually helpful in determining correct underlying form. Number 1. Segments exhibiting X to Y alternation are underlyingly X, which is converted to Y in certain contexts by one or more phonological rules. Then segments exhibiting XY alteration are underlyingly Y, which is converted to X in certain contexts by one or more phonological rules. Then we have surface segments that do not alternate are assumed to be the same at the underlying level. For segments that alternate consistently, use the underlying segment. So if there was a XY alteration and you determined that underlyingly the segment was X, then consistently write X as the underlying representation in all lexical items with the XY alteration. Each morpheme has only one and one underlying representation form. Now in this particular chart, you can see the examples of constructing underlying morph. When you have a word like cut, so this is the IPA transcription of cut, and word when it plural it comes cuts, and its IPA transcription will be different from the earlier one. In the same way you can have examples. So plural morpheme in English is realized as either s or z or is due to different phonological environment. Morphemes having their right boundary ending in voiceless consonant which is non-strident, these morphemes manifested as s allomorph. Morphemes having their right boundary ending in voiced consonant which is non-strident, these morphemes manifested as z allomorph. Morphemes having their right boundary ending in a consonant that is strident in nature, these morphemes take is allomorph. Morphemes having their right boundary ending in vowel, these morphemes also take z allomorph. So observation when you see that morph z is more widely distributed than any other occurring morph, that is, s or is. Hypothesis is that morph z is possibly underlying morph, that is some morphophonemic rules active into converting z into s and is. In absence of these rules, z manifests itself into surface as z. Formalizing hypothesis into rules. Now coda epenthesis. It inserts a schwa whenever the z appears after a morpheme has its right boundary ending in a strident consonant. Insertion of schwa helps break up the illegal consonant cluster in English, thereby following English phonotactics. You can see on your screen the example. Now the second rule is that devoicing. Devoicing ensures the devoicing of underlying form when it occurs after a voiceless consonant in the same coda. Devoicing helps ensure that English plurals comply with the phonotactics of English, as no word in English contains a coda in which a voiceless consonant is followed by a voiced consonant. So on your screen, just find this deducing surface forms from UR. First coda epenthesis plus second devoicing. The example is there when the word is there with the plural morpheme cut, cuts, dog, dogs, judge, judges. So how all these things are taking shape and what is the order of rule application is shown. In table 3 you can see the deducing surface forms from UR, and that is first devoicing plus second coda epenthesis. Phonological conditioning. Now it is clear that surface appearance of plural allomorph in English depends on the phonological environment of the right boundary of the morpheme. This phenomena is also known as phonological conditioning, and allomorphs s, z and is are also referred as phonologically conditioned allomorphs. It is not only the correct morphophonemic rules but also the correct ordering of these rules is equally crucial. else correct morphs will be generated as you had seen in table 2. Now, morphological conditioning is a conditioning wherein phonological environment of a morpheme determines selection and shape its allomorph or allomorphs. For example, in as a plural making morpheme is a peculiar case to only certain words such as children, oxen, brethren, etc. Occurrence of a morph form is determined by the morpheme it gets attached to rather than its phonological environment. Assimilation is again another technique. Assimilation of negative prefix in English just produces some new words. When I say possible and it's written like impossible, it comes like in the IPA transcription impossible. In the same way, we have balance, we have tolerable and other words, active, inactive. So we have gratitude, ingratitude. So different words comes with this assimilation. Negative morpheme in manifests itself as im and im allomorph. Allomorph im occurs only before when following consonant is labial in nature. For example, p, b, f or m. Occurrence of allomorph only before the velar consonants like k, k, g, g. Elsewhere, allomorph in is found to be appearing, that is to say, before alveolar consonants such as t, d, s, z or n, and before vowel sounds such as these on your screen. But prefix un and non don't follow the pattern. You can observe the following this data: unpolluted is unpolluted, non-personal, there is no assimilation, unbalanced, non-business, unmarked, non-medical. So they are carrying two different words in the pronunciation also, and they are not assimilated into one word. Now stress also shifts. English is a stress timed language and primary stress falls normally on the first syllable of the word. However, it may appear on any other syllable as well. Of the several active morphophonemic processes in English, one is shifting of stress from one syllable to another whenever a new morpheme gets attached to it. This is also addressed as vowel gradation or vowel alteration process. Now you can see it's photo. This is one, photo. The stress is on photo. But when first derivation comes and it becomes photograph, then the stress comes on photograph, graph. So the stress changes. Stress is not on pho. Now it's photograph, then photography, and then photographic. So in every word we are changing the stress. Drama, it's drama. It's dramatic and it's dramatically. Now the stress are being shifted. Now what are the various rules of stress shift that we are supposed to follow, and that tells us the real pronunciation and understanding of the word in the real sense. Like rules describing stress patterns in English are not exhaustive in nature. Some rules may anyway be stated for the common understanding. Like primary stress, we already told you that primary stress falls on first syllable. Monosyllabic words, most of the disyllabic nouns like label, Bible, treaty, purchase, etc. are there. Then we have compound nouns, sidewalk, street light, headset, etc. Most of the disyllabic adjectives like lucky, clever, active, skittish, etc. also have stress on various other places. Now primary stress somewhere falls on second syllable also. How? Most of the disyllabic verbs invent, divulge, implore, etc. takes stress on second syllable. Compound and two-word phrasal like undo, pass out, give up, etc. are compound and two-word syllable. Primary stress falls on penultimate syllable in some cases. What's that? Adjective ending in IC suffix like syllabic, like autocratic, historic, etc. So the stress is on penultimate syllable. Historic, historic. Nouns ending in SION or TION suffix like decision, intuition, prevention. So the stress is not on the first syllable but other. Primary stress falls on antepenultimate syllable as well, like nouns ending in CY, TY, PHY, GY suffixes. For example, democracy, photography, energy, etc. And then adjectives ending in CAL like medical, practical, etc. Now, grammatical conditioning. What is the grammatical conditioning? Selection of a particular allomorph determined by a certain grammatical class is known as grammatical conditioning. A special allomorph may be required in a given grammatical context. There may not be any good phonological reason for its selection, however. For example, in irregular verbs such as see in English, see, saw, seen, determined by present tense, past tense and the non-progressive participle, these are known as grammatical features. Now there is suppletion. When allomorphs of two morphemes are phonetically unrelated is referred as a case of suppletion. For example, comparative adjective form of good is better. It contains lexeme good, but there is not a single common sound found between both of them. So usual notations like since morphemes are made of phonemes, they are expressed between slashes. The boundary between two morphemes is often represented either with plus sign. Sometimes linguists also use a hyphen for expressing morpheme boundary. Word boundaries are usually indicated with hash sign. A rule, A leading to B, C to D will be read as A changes into B in the environment when C precedes the sound A and D follows the sound A. The forward arrow translates into changes into and forward slash translates into in the environment of. A sometimes is also addressed as target, B as change and C and D are triggers. Notation, this is often referred as focus bar and this is where the change takes place. This symbol is used for expressing process of deletion and epenthesis, and this one labeled parenthesis is used to indicate the syllable boundary. Asterisk refers to ungrammatical or unacceptable string of words. So to summarize, we have seen morpheme, we have seen phonetics and we also seen morphophonetics, just how to combine these two things in a better way, how to understand various symbols, how to define those and pronounce those particular symbols. This has been discussed in this module. Thank you for visiting EPG Pathshala.